Hello and welcome back to the Topper Machine Sawmill. We've got a special one for you today because we are actually going to be trenching the electricity over here. We're running three-phase power, not a high amperage service, only going to run about 50 amps over here, but enough to utilize the three-phase, and also if I need to, I can bring the big welder out here and plug it in and run pretty close to max output on it if we need to. But we got the three-phase available, so we're going to utilize that. Already got the wire, and Pete just showed up with a trencher. All right, so here's the trencher. Just a skid steer attachment with a hell of a chainsaw chain on it. And a little auger at the back end there to kick the dirt out. So this is going to be fun to see run. While Pete's getting her untied, we'll walk over and I'll show you the path we're taking. And yes, he's still single. All right, so over here I've got an outdoor panel that's got a three-phase sub panel in it. And actually this is where we feed the house from the shop as well. So I got power coming in here. I got 150 amp coming in here. I'm only running like 80 or 100 amp to the house. I can't remember. But then we've got plenty in here. I've got this set up so I can plug the welder in out here. I've got one of my three-phase drop cords. I plug the bandsaw in out here if I'm doing that. I got a camper outlet, some outlets. So I already got it set up. I've got drilled and the conduit fitting in. There's the conduit. And I trenched already. Got the first step of it. I got it down to where I got to my wires and everything is accessible. And then from here, we're just doing a straight shot to right there. So pretty easy. This is going to be some hard digging here. This is all gravel I brought in and raised it. There's about 1.5 feet of gravel here, so this is good and hard. And then once we get out there, that's all sand. So it should go pretty good. And we just got rain last night, so the ground is good and moist. Shouldn't have any issues with backfilling. And that thing should do about a 4-inch trench, so that should work great for us. And here he comes. So we're going to start on this end at the sawmill shed and just work our way back. We'll work our way back to the panel outside the shop there, and this should go pretty quick, I think. So this is already going really slick. He's stalled her out a couple of times. I don't know if it's just the sand is that heavy and wet, but boy, that's making a beautiful trench. And if anybody's asking, you know, oh, did you call Digger's hotline? No, absolutely not. Why would I do that? Everything on this property I built, I put in. So I know where everything is on the property within about a foot. So no, we did not call Diggers because we know there's nothing here. This was all trees when I bought this, and we cleared and put everything in ourselves. So we are not gonna hit anything, no chance of that. It's no high-speed operation, but it sure beats a shovel. I'd say we're about a third of the way there. All right, he's on a good trajectory, and we just talked it over. What we're gonna do is I'm gonna shovel this little pile over a little, have him hug this side with the tire, get up as close as we can, and then call that good to there, and then maybe come around with the machine and just touch the trench together or hand dig it. But all we gotta do is get to this, but we don't wanna go too far and hit the wires going to the house that run directly there. So I don't think we're gonna get anywhere near them. We should be fine, but I'll move this little dirt so he doesn't bump up on it when he gets to it with the machine. All right, as he gets closer here, about right here is where that hard gravel starts. And just breaking it with the shovel when I dug the trench there was a little bit tough. So I don't know how this is gonna cut, but it'll be interesting. Definitely gonna beat a shovel, I can guarantee that. A little bit of steam is from the water in the jacket. That hydraulics are warming up enough to steam it off. Looks pretty cool. Still cutting good. we're into the last 25 feet here. We're coming along nicely. Looking good. All right, well, we're gonna have a little bit of shovel cleanup work right here where we had to do the corner, but that looks good all the way. All right, so Pete's gonna try coming back in and straddling this again and just clean this last bit out, and then we'll only have to shovel up here, which won't be such a big deal. So let's see if he can do it. That'll work. We can shovel that last bit in the corner here.
That worked pretty good.
All right, I got that curve shoveled out as good as it's gonna get. Here is some 4444 URD, direct burial aluminum cable, which I can't finish the hookup today because I'm waiting on the antioxidant to come that you have to put on aluminum wire, but we'll get it in the trench, get her filled back in, and maybe get the breaker panel mounted on the sawmill shed, and figured get done what we can get done today.
Well, it beats a shovel.
Yeah, definitely beats a shovel. All right, well, first scoop of dirt to hold the cable down. Now we just kind of flop her in as we go. Well, so far, almost to the bad spot. All right, there's the bad spot.
We can start digging.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna throw some dirt down here to hold the cable down first. Uh-oh. Thunder.
Might get this done without getting rained on.
Wow. Okay.
Pull this back out of the way.
Yeah. Guess I'm not going to get too worried about going too deep because it'll just keep caving in, so.
Pretty close to the building here too.
Yeah. We'll never be digging here.
Yeah, if you want to, you can fill a little bit of the trench in down there farther too.
Why don't you bring the wire ahead? So that way if it does cave. Hold her down tight. All right, I think we'll call that good enough. We're still 2 feet down. Just sucks that it happened, but what are you gonna do? Fill it in and start over? All right. We're there. Well, that was fun.
Now you get to finish filling it in.
I'll go grab the snow pusher for the payloader and we'll just drag it all in. Should work out good.
Yep.
Let's see if I can pack it without burying it. Well, we got it all graded out, but it don't look like this rain is gonna stop, which is okay. It'll help settle the dirt, but it sure came out nice. And I'm not gonna finish up the wiring today because, well, I don't have the antioxidant and it's raining. I'll melt. I'm so sweet.
Well, that was a whole lot easier than the alternative.
Yeah, no, it went really well. And all I got to do is build the framework to support the breaker panel here, run the conduit. I got ground rods to put out here, and then we're good to go. And one little thing I did do the other day was when we saw in the mill, we sort out our for edging, we sorted out, and Carl always just stacked it on the feed table. Well, he wanted some planks put down to stack them on. And then I came up with these guys. So they're hinged, so you can swing them out of the way when not in use. So the shed is wide open, I can get the loader in here or put them back out. So these are an awesome addition, and they'll hold a lot of weight. They are well built. Of course, I didn't film the making or the install of these, but oh well. Don't seem like it's packing too much.
It's not bad.
Really not bad at all. Well, I drove my fat butt loader over it, so. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. I don't know if I'm going to end it here or continue and do the wiring, but Pete's part's done. So thanks for coming again.
Yeah, no problem.
We did do one other thing though that I was going to film it, but it didn't work out. But let's go show you. Well, because it was so rainy and crappy, we came in here with his skid steer and my pallet forks with the cylinder on the forks, well protected, and we got her on. It's up there. I just got to tighten all the bolts, but I got a few things I got to do before I can tighten the bolts, so definitely a step closer to getting this guy running.
Good deal.
Yeah, closer. A lot of work yet, but closer. So I don't know if I'm going to continue with this video filming the wiring. I'll probably work on that tomorrow or the next day, probably Monday, because that's when the antioxidant's supposed to show up. And then we can get that wired up, and maybe I will film that because most people don't know how to correctly use antioxidant with aluminum wire. So actually I will film that. So thanks for watching this far, and stay tuned because we're going to continue on. And thanks for coming and helping.
No problem.
All right, so as you can see, I got a nice mounting board up here for my electrical panel, and over here is my three-phase panel. All right, let's go ahead and get this thing opened up here. I got to take these screws out completely because they're not used. Once you get the screws, the correct screws that are inside. So this is a main lug panel, meaning that it has lugs right here to terminate your wires to, and then there's your neutral strip. I see this is missing a ground strip, so I will add that separately, but we can go ahead and get everything hooked up as far as the three-phase goes. So we got our 3 hots, our neutral, and then we'll add a ground bus over here once I get to that point. So pretty straightforward and simple. Let's get this thing hung. First we'll figure out where we need our knockout for our wire coming in. I think I want to come in on this side if I can. And actually, now that I get it up there, it looks like I'm going to have to come in on the center. Not a big deal. We'll just knock out that knockout, and we'll slip our conduit over our wire and everything, run it all through, and then mount it up here. All right, that's about where we want her. And I'll get the level, square that up, screw her down, and then we can start connecting. All right, now that we're all secured, next thing I got to do is install my ground rods. And these go about 6 feet apart. We're going to put them inside the building. Actually, we'll put them outside. They'll be closer to moisture. And I got my ground wire right here. I already ran it through. So we just got to sink these and then hook them up. Now I want this wire buried a little bit, so I'm just going to dig a trench, at least to get it under the dirt so we don't have issues with it in the future. I'm going to sink my first rod right here, and that means the second one will be over there. I know you've heard about me talk about it before on the channel, but we got all this sand here, and then at about here we're about 6 feet, we hit that hard gravel. Up there where the shop is, it's about 10 feet deep, where the house is about 10 feet, and I hit that hard gravel. And that is some hard stuff to drive through, so I'm going to keep pounding these. We'll get them in and then hook them up. All right, there we are. I'll get these hooked up. Okay, here we are. We're just going to use the end of the wire, bend it over, and then take our little ground clamp here. This goes on the wire or the post, and then you cinch it down. That's simple. And because this is all below grade, we don't have to worry about tripping on anything, but at least we've got a satisfactory ground. These rods were 10-foot copper coated steel rods, and they get me down into that hard pan really nice. We've got multiple panels around the property here, all 3-phase. The house is 3-phase, everything's 3-phase, and every panel has its own set of grounding rods. And when I did all this, I talked to the power company beforehand, and I said, you know, is that a good idea? And they said, absolutely, go for it. Do whatever you want. Add as many ground rods as you can. And, you know, my electrical background, I've been wiring locomotives for the last 15 years, and I do everything to AAR standards, which is significantly higher than the NEC. So we've been inspected in the past, and they all said you overdid everything, which is good. All right, all connected up. Time to fill her in. All right, we're all filled in. I'm going to let that get rained on a few times and then finish rake it out, and that should be absolutely perfect. So next we'll start connecting wires. All right, I'm just going to start by getting her in position where I want it and then cutting them off the length. We're going to run that neutral wire, which is this one right here, all the way over. Cut it off right there. I'll untwist that so it's easier to get out. Okay, perfect. And now these guys. I'm going to cut them just a 1.5 inches long, just so I got extra, just in case I need to adjust something. All right. And no, it's not connected on the other end, so we got nothing to worry about there yet. All right, now to hook up the wires, we got to use this antioxidant compound, because this is aluminum wire, and this is a dissimilar metal. So this dissimilar metal will cause galvanic corrosion over time and give us all kinds of problems. It'll just eat through the wire. So you got to coat it with that antioxidant, but the way to do that is to scuff up the surface first with a wire brush. You want to get that cleaned up properly. There. And then we put the ox guard on there. Now this is my neutral wire, and I always put way more on than needed because you're blocking oxygen. That's what you're actually doing. And just spread it on there good. And we'll run this wire up and over the top and right in. There we go. So we repeat the process for the other 3 hots here, and then hook it up in the other panel, and we'll turn it on and we'll give it a test and see which way our phase rotation is. All right, this end's all wired up. I'll go hook up the other end off camera, because that's going to take me a little bit of time because I got to shut off power and all that stuff. But I'll get that hooked up, finished up, and then we'll give it a test run. All right, I got this end all hooked up. Let's flip the breaker on and see what happens. So we're just feeding this with a 50 amp breaker, just 50 amps going out there. The wire is rated for 85 amps, so we're safe there. All right, here goes nothing. Well, breaker didn't trip. Let's go test our connection, see if we got power. All right, so I'm gonna test this 2 different ways. First, I'm gonna test to make sure I have my 208 out here, when that's simple as testing to a lug to a lug. 208. 205, we're within tolerance. 208. Now we can test to neutral, and we should be at 120 for each one. 118, 118, 118. So we're good there. Next, we're going to check phase rotation. All right, so what this does is it tells me which direction a 3-phase motor is going to run. And because everything I do, I wire one way, I want to verify that it's the same, so that when I connect anything to it, doesn't matter what it is, it will run the same direction. And 3. So 1, 2, 3, because we've got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So that's how it is. I don't know how visible this is, but it should be lit up. So you can see all 3 lights are lit, so we have proper power. And then we push the button for phase rotation, and it's running left hand. So it's actually, I believe, backwards to what I want. So all I need to do is swap 2 of these wires, and that'll be it. So then we'll be done. So I'm going to go ahead and do that off camera, because all I got to do is shut off power, unbolt 2 of them, swap them, hook it back up, all good to go. Well, there you have it. We have a 3-phase panel out here, a low amperage 3-phase panel, but it'll do everything we need for this building. We'll be able to put regular outlets in for running power tools. As it is, I've been doing the carpentry so far with the chainsaw, because I don't want to stretch out 150 feet of cord. So now I can do it with a circular saw or table saw or whatever. I can get that out here. You know, saw sharpener for the sawmill. I'll be able to just run a short extension cord to the saw sharpener, sharpen up the blade. That'll be amazing. That'll be such a vast improvement. Lights, we're going to do the lights in here, wire them on 3-phase. So I'll have a 3-phase breaker come into a contactor box with a switch, and then we'll split off. They'll all be LEDs, and they'll each be on their own phase. And the reason I do that is to tell me if there's a problem with the power. And I've done that in the shop, and that's been a wonderful addition. 3-phase systems, you can lose 1 phase of power, still have 2 phases, and it can cause problems. Now, there is such a thing as phase protection for motors, and I've got that on a few pieces of equipment, but not everything. Most of the time when I'm in the shop working, if I lose a phase, I know it instantly because one part of the lights in the shop go dead. So it's like, okay, kill it right now, you know. And so that's a really good feature to have, is wire up the lights, split it out on the 3-phase so you got an indicator. And so I'm very excited to get that wired in here. Like I said, we're going to put a camper outlet for friends and family when they visit so they can plug their campers in. As it is, we have three 30 amp camper outlets around the property. So when we have family visiting, we can plug them in wherever we want. Plus, I also have a double 30 amp, plugs into the 2-phase and 75-foot cord, so I can put 2 more campers wherever I want. So we've got all kinds of capabilities for friends and family to visit, so it's been great. As far as, I know somebody's going to comment that they're an electrician and that's the wrong way to do it. Well, screw you. I've been wiring stuff for a lot of years. I've worked with locomotives for many, many years, going on 25 now, actually 28 years, I think. And I work to a higher standard than the National Electrical Code. So this is totally cool. And I did add that bus bar, that ground bus is in there. We're all good to go. So when the time comes, we can start hooking stuff up. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it didn't get too long. And check out some of my older content. There's some great stuff there. And until next time, get out in your shop and get it done right the first time.